Well, the war in Iran has been escalating. Israel continues its strikes on Iranian targets. Iran, in response, has raised the intensity of its attacks. Now, the U.S. military says that 3 troops have been killed and 5 wounded, which mark the first American casualties of the operation against Iran. Washington has not released details as of now on how the troops were killed or injured. Iran, meanwhile, has vowed revenge after the killing of its supreme leader and has traded strikes with Israel in a rapidly widening war triggered by a surprise U.S. Israeli bombardment. United States and Israel launched massive bombardments that killed Iran's supreme leader on Saturday. The strikes are still underway. U.S. air and naval forces operating with Israel are heavily bombarding Iran. President Donald Trump says that the objective is to destroy Iran's military capability. In fact, the U.S. military says that it struck an Iranian naval vessel and claims the ship is sinking in the Gulf of Oman. In response, Iran has fired missiles at targets in Israel and at U.S. facilities across the region. Earlier, Iran's Revolutionary Guard claimed that it had hit the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln with 4 ballistic missiles. CENTCOM has denied the claim, saying that the carrier was not struck. Iranian media, meanwhile, report that 43 security personnel were killed in an attack on a border regiment headquarters in Tehran, near Iraq. In Israel, 9 people were killed after a missile strike in Beit Shemesh. Israel says an Iranian missile hit a residential area that destroyed a synagogue and caused extensive damage to a public bomb shelter and nearby houses. Waves of missiles and drones have targeted Israel. An apartment building in Tel Aviv was also destroyed. In fact, the Israeli Defense Forces say that another wave of strikes has been launched on Tehran. Iranian officials claim that at least 153 people, which included children, were killed in a strike that reportedly hit a school. Iran has threatened the most devastating offensive against U.S. bases and Israel. Iranian forces even say that they have deployed missiles more advanced than those used in last year's 12-day war with greater precision and ferocity. The Islamic Republic has also targeted Arab Gulf states hosting U.S. forces. UAE says that 3 people were killed in Iranian attacks. Kuwait has reported 1 fatality. President Trump has even warned that he would respond with force never seen before and has urged Iranians to reclaim their country and claimed 48 Iranian leaders have been killed in the strikes. And joining us live from Wicklow Island is Scott Lucas. He is Professor of International Politics, Clinton Institute, University College in Dublin. Mr. Lucas, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. Starting first up with the latest statements coming in from President Trump, who says that he would be talking to Iranian leaders, but he's been vague on the timing as to when these talks will actually take place. Your assessment of the U.S.-Iran talks going forward?
Well, as always with Trump, you need to treat his statements as effectively being bluster and rhetoric and try to get to the real point here. What I think you're hearing from Trump is that, only 10 days after he said he was the president of peace, that the reason why he at least, if not his administration, joined the Israeli strikes was try to bully Iran into accepting Trump's terms over Iran's nuclear program. And those terms were that Iran can have no uranium enrichment at all, 0 enrichment, and that it has to be willing to limit its ballistic missiles in terms of the number and in terms of their range. Now, the Iranians will not agree to those terms. They did not do so at the talks on Thursday. So that appears to be the tipping point where Trump, who did this as a businessman, said, okay, I'm going to bully you into surrender. And the bullying in this case happens to be these very, very deadly strikes, which have not only killed the supreme leader, but other senior members of the regime, including the defense minister, including the Revolutionary Guard's head, including the Army Chief of Staff. The question here now is whether what is left of the regime will actually agree to surrender to Trump's terms, to effectively give up their nuclear program for good.
Yes. Mr. Lucas, follow-up question on the geopolitical realignment at play here. Given that Netanyahu has minced absolutely no words in saying that the strikes will only intensify in the coming days, and as we speak, Iran continues with its bombardment on several of these Gulf countries. How do you view Iran versus the Gulf Cooperation Council? What diplomatic efforts have been, in your view, underway or would be underway in days to come to de-escalate tensions and avoid a wider West Asia conflict?
Well, I mean, quite rightly, we've had calls for de-escalation. We've had them from the Gulf, we've had them from India, we've had them from Europe. But the reality here is that there's no way to de-escalate at this point. Israel is going to continue to attack because it does want regime change, unless the United States says, okay, we're going to stop. At this point, Trump and his administration don't give any indication they're going to withdraw that support from Israel. So the attacks continue because Iran, what is left of the regime, does not indicate that they're going to surrender right now. I think right now for the Gulf states, their priority right now is their own security. The Iranian retaliation has had limited effect so far, much more limited than what we saw last June in terms of the damage that it's caused. But we don't know how many more missiles Iran has and if it will basically expand the strikes, including on the Gulf states.
Yes. Mr. Lucas, just last question before we let you go. Not to forget that 3 U.S. service members have lost their lives in these attacks. Does this essentially put more pressure, particularly on President Donald Trump going ahead?
Not at this point, because nothing succeeds like success, and the Trump camp will be saying we've killed the ultimate bad guy, the supreme leader. We've killed all these other Iranians, and if you suffer a few American casualties, well, that's the price you pay. That's what Trump said going into this. Now, if you wind up getting dozens of Americans who are killed, and then say scores of Americans who are killed, then you start to see domestic opinion say, wait a minute. We thought this was the president who said we would not get involved in deadly foreign interventions, but we're not at that point yet.
All right. Mr. Lucas, we'll have to leave it at that, but of course we will keep speaking to you through the day as the situation still remains volatile, and as we speak, Iranian attacks continue on several of these Gulf countries.
Thank you, and thank your viewers.